Hello world, how you doing? What this video is about is how to tell if your extension cord plug needs to be replaced. I plugged my extension cord in the other day and it's hooked up to, it's a lit yellow cord here, and it's hooked up to this cord reel. Got this cord reel for, shoot, I think it was about $12.99 back probably like 10 years ago. It's been a great cord reel. Got it at Cragen's Auto Parts, which is now O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think they still sell them. The only thing that was bad about it when I got it was the circuit breaker thing. Of course, those things always trip. So what I did is, if you flip this thing over, there's 4 screws that hold the thing together on the middle part, and you just take those 4 screws out and you can take the thing apart. And what I did was I soldered a wire across the circuit breaker so it didn't trip anymore. And man, the thing's just bulletproof. It's just a great cord. It's my go-to cord. Just rolls up real nice, and it's really cool. You just roll it out. Anyways, so first time in 10 years that it plugged it in and nothing worked. So I was using my vacuum cleaner when I plugged it in. So I wiggled the plug at the end here and at the outlet, and yep, then the vacuum cleaner started working. So got to replace this plug. So got one of my plugs off my truck. I keep these on the truck all the time. Get them at Home Depot. They're like $5 bucks, something like that. You can get them between $5 and $10, or less even, I think. So what we're going to need today to replace the plug is a strippers like this. That's what I prefer. These are called dikes or side cutters, red handle ones. Screwdriver and another screwdriver. Has to be an isomatic screwdriver or it won't work. Or a Dometic Cruiser. It could be that screwdriver too. But can't use any other screwdrivers or this won't work. I'm just joking. Use your favorite screwdriver, anything you like. So these screwdrivers you get when you go to school. Different training schools, they give them out as perks. You get, you get manuals and all kinds of goodies when you go to school. So going to school is definitely a good thing, guys, for keep your continuing education up for your different products that you're working on. So this is from Isomatic School, and this is from Dometic Cruiser School. So what's 6 in 1? These are great screwdrivers. I love them. You guys can say what you want about them, man, but I love these things. They're good quality screwdrivers. Anyhow, back to the video here. How to tell if you need to replace the plug. So what I did is I put my meter in the holes here. Okay, so these are all joined together, so that's why I just use different plugs. But you can put them in the same plug holes side by side if you want. Just one in the hot hole and one in the neutral hole. And all you do is I put a wire across here to make a connection, so that if I were to short across this connection here, the meter would ohm out. So that's what happens when I wiggle this. I'll see if I can do this. Okay, so this pin you can see is bent, and the meter says OL right now. That means open line. Okay, open line. So that means that there's an open in the circuit. So no continuity. So it's on the tone for tone. So you can hear there's no tone right now. And we'll see, hang on a second here, if I can, okay, and then when I move the pin, see, goes to where it's reading a resistance. But as you can see, the connection's not good. So that's not the wire wiggling around. It's the wires are on there. I put a piece of 12 gauge, and so the wire is solid. It's wrapped around there pretty tight. It's definitely the pin. So you can see when I bring the pin out straight, it makes a connection. So that tells you that your plug is no good. And we can see the other one is, anyways, so plugs get, cords get abused in travels, and there you go. I think you can hear the tone now. I don't know where the tone's coming from, but yeah, I can hear the tone. So anyways, gotta replace the plug. Okie doke. So we get started replacing the plug. First thing I gotta do is just cut off the old plug. So we're gonna do that now. And here is the dead soldier. May it rest in peace. It has served me well. Okay, so what you do next is you cut some insulation back, the outer yellow insulation of the cord. Be careful not to cut or touch the inside wires, and you just nibble around it with the side cutters. And this is what your pieces that how you'll cut them off, and there's some like paper inside that's kind of separating the wires a little bit. You get rid of that paper, and then what you do is you make sure you got enough wire, because the wire's got to go all the way through this part. The wire goes in these holes and goes all the way to the end here. So what you got to do is you cut off enough, you make it so that the wires go in about a ½ an inch, but your insulation lines up where it's going to be crimped, because the cord holder part of it holds the cord back here. So that's a little surface that holds onto the cord, so that when you pull on the cord, you don't rip the cord out of the connection points in here. And as you see, these 3 holes, this is where the wires go in. So when I strip these back, when you strip the insulation off these wires, you strip these back with your wire strippers here, and you'll strip off about ½ an inch of, strip this about halfway back, and you want the wire, like I said, about ½ an inch of it showing. Sometimes they give you a strip gauge on these plugs. I'll have to see if I can see where the strip gauge is. This. But anyways, you just have to get enough wire in there to go in this hole and be clamped down. This is like a little vice jaw clamp. And the wire goes between these 2 pieces of brass. When you tighten the screw down, it holds the wire tight. And that's your connection point for each wire to make a connection for the corresponding male plug part. So so you need to put a black and a white in these holes, and then the green screw is for your ground wire. Okay, so it doesn't make a huge difference if you put the black or the white in either hole, but there is a correct hole that it should go in. And that would be the brass one. There's a brass color and then there's a silver color. And the silver color is the one you want to use for the white wire, and the brass or bronze colored is where the black wire goes in that hole. Like I said, the green wire goes in the green hole. As you see, those screws, they correspond to the plug right beside them. Okay, like I said, it doesn't matter if you put the black or the white, or the white or the black in these bottom holes. Not really, it'll still work, but like I said, there is a correct way to do it. So that's it. That's basically how you do it. And then once you get the 3 wires, I'll do it here, and once you get the 3 wires in the hole, you lay the cord in here and put the cap. This will be like, will go on here, and you put these screws, these tightening screws, in these holes. These tightening screws right here will go one here, one there, and you just pull it down evenly on the cord, and make sure it holds tight. And that's pretty much it. Okay, this is pretty much what you want to make it look like when you've stripped it back. I like to give the wires a little twist to keep them together. And then I kind of like to make it, I'll give them a little bend, kind of like this, so they kind of line up a little better going in the holes. And then you just start with the bottom ones, put the bottom ones in one at a time, and then you put the green one in, and that'll do it. So just make sure that the screws are unscrewed all the way, so that the clamping area for putting the wire in is open, so that you're actually clamping the wire between the 2 jaws. And there's the actual strip gauge. I found it on this one, so you can see if it focuses on here. So there they have, it looks like I'll have to look at it a little closer. Okay, if you look at this strip gauge real close, what you'll see is the insulation is the larger part on the left of it, and then the smaller part you'll see a little bit coming out of it, and that's how much wire should be sticking out of the insulated wire. So basically you would lay your wire, let's see if I can do it. So I can kind of do this right here. I'll lay this plug right in here like this. Okay, and what you're doing is you want the wire to line up on it like that. So that's, let me get these wires out of the way. So that's how you tell how much, and you can see I'm pretty close. The wire could be just a smidge longer, and I'll do that just to adhere to the gauge, and that's how you want it to line up. And you just want to make sure when you stick the wire in the holes that when you are turning the screw down, that you only, the brass part, the jaws, are only clamping on the wire and not on the white insulation of the wire, because that won't give you a good connection then. The brass jaws must just clamp on just the wire, and it must be tight on just the wire, not any of the white insulation or the black or the green insulation. The jaws, the brass jaws must just clamp on wire, okay? And you know, up to the insulation needs to just get pretty close to where you're clamping. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, as you'll see, I just started assembling the cord to the plug, and this is the first wire that I'm putting in. Okay, and you can see how the wire is in there, but you can see the insulation, the wire is just far enough back that the brass part inside is gripping, and you can see the insulation is you can see the insulation, you can see just a little bit of the wire, so you know that you're not crimping on the white part. You just got to be just crimping on the wire. And you can see there's the brass part. You can see there's just a little bit of wires, just a little bit back of that. Okay, and you just repeat the procedure on the other holes. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Okay. Okay, so here's the second wire that I've put in the hole. And these screws, you do want to make them very, very tight. I am a 6'1", 240-pound guy, and I make these screws pretty much as damn tight as I can get them. So don't be afraid of getting on those screws and tighten them real good. Just be positive about your screwing, and just make sure that you don't slip off the screwdriver or whatever, and or the screw head, and just make sure it's really good and tight. And they'll take a lot of tightening, some good tightness, you know. So all right, I'm going to put the ground screw in now. Okay, so all three wires are in their respective holes. Your white is your neutral, your black is your hot wire, or line wire you could call it. We call it in the trade. The hot is the black, white is the neutral, green is your ground. Okay, that's in America. In Europe, I know they call the green the earth, as in ground. I don't know what they call the hot and the neutral. I believe it's the same. So anyways, so that's that done, and after you get done, you know, tightening the ground screw, then go back and check the tightness on your neutral and your ground again, because they may, oh, I'm gonna sneeze, but I didn't. I hate that. Son of a gun. Okay, anyways, so like I said, when you tighten the green in the ground, go back and check the tightness on the other ones, make sure they're all good and tight. When they're all good and tight, and you'll see this is how it lays in there. This looks actually real good. This is how it should look. And this is And I know this is a yellow plug and a yellow cord. I didn't try to do it that way. That's just the way it worked out. Sometimes that's just how it works out in life. For me, that it works out that way a lot, which I'm happy about. So, but anyways, you just want to put your 2 screws through there, and then pull this down. And you don't want to get crazy tight on this. You just want this. These 2 screws. The functionality is done. Everything is function. The rest is superficial. Just clamping and holding onto this wire is just so that the wire doesn't. It's like a strain relief. So basically, you just want it to be pulled down enough to be snug on this wire, and just smush the outer insulation just a little bit, so it's just kind of good and tight, you know. And remember, when you're buying these plugs, sometimes these screws are missing like this. You'll buy the plug in the store and it'll be missing the screws. So check the box that it's in, and they're usually in a box of 25 or something, and there'll be a bunch of screws floating around on the bottom of that big box. So that's what I found. That's the only thing with these particular plugs. Just make sure you get your 2 screws for holding it down. And like I said, the actual functionality of the plug is done. This plug, you could plug it in the wall, just like this. You don't want to do that because these covers protect your hands, so you don't. If you were to plug it in the wall and touch one of these screws, you'd know all about it. You would get electrocuted. So, anyways, don't do that. So that's why this cover goes back together like this, protects your hands from touching one of the wires or bare contact. Okay. Also, make sure in here that you didn't let any of the little green wires, the little copper wires, hang out and touch from one connection to the other one or anything. Make sure, I call them hairs. Make sure that you don't get an extra wire, a strand that kind of got kicked out by its lonesome, and you got a strand of wire hanging out here. And make sure you do it clean so that there's no. That's why I twist the wires a little bit to kind of hold all the strands so they go in the hole easier. So anyhow, that's pretty much how it's doing it. And I'm going to screw this together now. All right. Okay. So this is done now. I put the screws in, and you simply tighten down on the screws. You tighten one screw in until the cover contacts, and then you tighten the other screw in until it contacts, and then you just gently screw them down one turn at a time, from side to side, left to right, 1 or 2 turns, just till it gets a little tension on it. Go to the other screw, back and forth till they get a little tension on each other to pull down, because you're trying to grab that cord is what you're trying to do. You don't want to smush the holy crud out of it, but you want it to grab pretty good. And so this is what it should look like when it's done. And you gotta be a little careful. These ones, you can't go too crazy tight, on these. You gotta just snug them down. You gotta get a feel for it. Maybe buy 2 of these plugs. They're sometimes really cheap. I've seen them as low as like $2.79 to $4. I think this one was $4 and change, under $5 for this plug. I like these plugs. I don't like buying plugs that have metal on them. Just, to me, metal is a conductor of electricity. I don't like the part that I'm holding to have metal. It's just something inside of me. I don't. Plastic is an insulator, so it isolates you from the electricity. Okay, so anyways, so there you go. This is a 115 volt plug, good for 15 amps, I believe. I haven't looked on this plug, but yeah, I believe the NEMA on here is a NEMA 5-15, which is going to mean the 15 part means 15 amps. Okay, all plugs have a NEMA designation. You can look up on the internet, I'm sure, NEMA designations for different plugs, so you can ask for one. This plug is good. There you go. There's your 15 amp rating up to 125 volts. Okay, so that's what this plug, the conductors inside this plug, these metal parts, and they're rated to carry a 15 amp load up to 125 volts. In California, United States, that's our standard residential house voltage, and also the same voltage commercially is 115 volt for refrigerators and all that kind of stuff, residentially or commercially. There's also commercial, we run 230 volts, 208 to 240 volts commercially, but not residentially ever. Actually, the stoves in your house are 230 volt, but we're getting off tangent here. So anyways, like I said, this plug is rated for 15 amps, so the cord you use must also, the wire inside the cord must be rated for 15 amps. 16 gauge in California a 16 gauge cord will carry 15 amps in California. 16 gauge wire. This cable should be 14 gauge. I use this. This uses this thing. This reel uses 14 gauge wire, I believe. What you do is you look on your side of any. You can always look on the side of wire, and you'll see a lot of information. This is an SJTW cable. That describes the kind of insulation and a lot of different stuff. You can, SJTW. You can Google that, I'm sure, on the internet, and that'll tell you everything. That designates the type of insulation and what it's rated for, and the voltage the cable's rated for, all kinds of stuff like that. So the next numbers that you see here are 14 AWG. That's 14 gauge is the American wire gauge. That's what AWG stands for. Okay, so this is a 14 gauge conductor. Insulation rating is good to 105 degrees centigrade. I believe that's what, yep, that's what that says there. You'll see all kinds of different information. Underwriter Laboratories is the UL part. You have all different kinds of ratings, like here's the SJTW, like I said. You have SJO cord, you have SJT cord, you got SJTW cord, SJO, SO cord. SO cord is rated for a certain voltage. SJO cord is rated for another voltage. I'm just doing this by memory, but I believe the SJO cord is good for 600 volts or 300 volts, one or the other. SJO is rated for 300 or 600, or one of the two. SJO and SO. SO cord, I believe, is rated for 600, and SJO is rated up to 300. I could have it backwards. I'm just doing it by memory. I would have to check a chart. But like I said, you just have to be concerned with that. If you're using a cord you shouldn't be using a cord anyhow over 300 volts. So won't even get into that. Anyways, but there's all kinds of stuff. You can see who made this cord. Let me see this. This is interesting here. Let's see if I can push this back. Looks like Ningbo Linsheng Electric Company. Well, that sounds like a good American name. I have a manufacturer. Okay, why can't we make cords out here? Actually, I think we do. I don't have a name in my head, but yeah. So anyhow, getting off tangent again. Having a little fun. So anyways, Sunday night, fixing my cord for my work extension rail. So, anyway, so the the only tools that you need, I needed for this one were a screwdriver with a number 1 standard tip. Number 1 is the standard tip. They make like number 1, number 2, and number 3 screwdrivers, which is the common stuff we use out here. This is a number 1 tip. It's a smaller tip. And then if this works, yeah, it does. Okay, so this is a number 1 standard on the left here, and then you have a Phillips number 1 on the right, which is a smaller Phillips. Okay, this is how they are designated. Phillips number 1 is a PH1. You can see that right there. And then this on this side, okay, it's like it has a number 5 maybe. Alright, so that blows my whole thing on the standard tip, but maybe that's a number 5 tip. Maybe I'm wrong on the standard. I am yeah, that's possible, but I know on the Phillips are number 1, 2, and 3. Standard designation, I guess I'm gonna have to maybe that's a number 5 standard. I'll have to see that. I've never really gotten into the standard tips. I either use them small, medium, or large. I've never really gotten into the detail of that. Yeah, appears to be. It's like I'm yeah, it looks like this standard is a number 7. Huh. Anyways, there's your Phillips number 2 tip, like what I was talking about, because I'm 100% sure on the Phillips stuff. The PH1 and a PH2. There's your PH1 and there's your PH2 difference in your Phillips. Most standard screws, average like your drywall screws and stuff, they're all going to be like a PH2. That's your most common Phillips is a PH2. PH1 are a little bit smaller Phillip. I'm gonna have to learn about the. I've been doing this 36 years and still teaching myself stuff. So, anyways, so the number 5 is looking like is a little lower one, and then you got a number 7, which is a little bit more than normal. I've always called these a number 2 standard and a number 1. That's what I've always called them. So I'll have to get into that a little deeper and find out what's going on here. So anyhow, that's that. Like I said, for this particular adventure, I just used a small standard screwdriver, and that's all that was required for this, and the screws inside. Then we got a set of dikes to take the large insulation off of the cable, and then these wire strippers to strip the inside wiring to get it to the proper length and everything, so that this could be all assembled correctly. So alright, so we're done. That's how it should look. Looks good. I'm happy with it. I'll go put it into service. So maybe I'll see if I can try it out here for you guys. Try to add something on there. Okay. Right. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Click like on the video if you would, and subscribe. All right. Take care. Bye. Okay. Let's see if it works. it in. Let me see. So, plugging it in. Let's see if it works. Works. New plug. New plug on the cord. Alright. Click like on the video, subscribe. Thanks. This whole plug. So anyways, wanted to say when you cut your plug off with a cord, always cut it back a few inches. Use some fresh cord, because this part gets all kind of bent and strained all the time. So this is not a real, the copper under here is not going to be in all that great a condition. It gets work hardened from the cord, you know, being bent back and forth and everything here. So you always want to get it back a couple inches, at least 2 or 3 inches, at least 2 minimum. This is pretty much the minimum. You want to, I'd say, go back 3 inches for fresh cable. That way you using some fresh cable, and you go hopefully another 10 years. So, but yeah, this looks like this one. This was a cool plug. I think this one lit up actually. Maybe I'll take this plug apart. I'd like to cut into that with a, might cut into it with a razor blade and see what it looks like. Okay, thanks for watching the video, and click like on the video if you could, and subscribe. All right, take her easy. Thanks, bye.